What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Driversedition. And today I got a real interesting topic for you because I didn't see this one coming. So just to give you a little backdrop on this story before we jump into it, I was out getting some content with some of my Corvette friends, or should I say some of my Corvette ownership friends, and a conversation piece came up about what the new Grand Sport does to the market space, and I was sharing my opinion. But what I'm starting to realize is the Corvette community has a strong opinion as well. And part of that opinion is the new Grand Sport isn't worth the money. And I thought that was interesting considering how low the price actually came in and started. But as always, let's talk about it. Okay, so you all know the C8 Grand Sport pricing has come out, and the 1LT starts off right around $88,000. We can say 89, but I think it's 88,495. I don't have the numbers memorized, but it's around that price range. And that was very shocking because, like I said, I was predicting 90 to 95,000, strongly leaning towards the $95,000 range. And the funny thing about that is so was a lot of people in the Corvette community. So when the price came in at 88,000, that sent shockwaves in both directions because you have people that are interested in the car that say that's a very good price because now it makes it easier for them to obtain one and own it. While you have people on the other side of the space that says, well, I already got a C8, and if it really was such a better improvement to the car, you would have charged more money. And the funny thing about it is, I guess the real question comes down to where do you place or see value in the new Grand Sport? So the Grand Sport has now upgraded from the 6.2 liter V8 that's out there currently to a 6.7 liter V8 pushing out 535 horsepower. Now, for a lot of people, the extra bump in horsepower, which is truthfully somewhere right around 40 horsepower, would be enough to make a significant change. And I say that because many people have went out and looked at other performance options to get more horsepower, including pro charging a car and so forth. And most performance upgrades are going to cost you somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 just to get close to that type of performance, depending on which route you choose to go. So for GM to only do that with the base C8 for 2027 for an extra $1,000, to me makes it a bargain deal. But what's funny about this conversation is many people were content with the 6.2 liter V8. And the conversations that are now coming out trying to justify buying the 6.7 liter V8 is people are saying GM were trying to fix an issue with the 6.2 liter V8 or replace the engine because it's a known problem. And so many Corvette owners today disagree because the 6.2 liter engine has been around for quite some time. And although it does have long-term effects like any other of the fuel displacement engines that was brought out into the industry, not just by GM, the owners don't agree. And because you had a few issues with some earlier models does not mean the engine is bad. See, we're living in a time today where a lot of times a quick problem or adjustment or something that happens that creates an issue, people want to blast, or should I say, they want to blame the entire brand or the version of the car. And when you have so many successful owners, and let's put this into perspective, the current Corvette C8 is already over 200,000 units produced. And even though it's over 200,000 units produced, you have to remember the C8 Z06, which is the second largest produced vehicle in the lineup, hasn't even hit 30,000 units. And then the Corvette E-Ray, which shares the motor, hasn't eclipsed 7,000 units. And the C8 ZR1 and ZR1X, they haven't hit over 3,500 units. So out of 200,000 plus cars, just doing round numbers, in essence, you still have over 165,000 cars utilizing the 6.2 V8 platform and you may have had less than 1,000 issues with the actual engine. So if when people to come out and say, yeah, the 6.2 liter is a problem, a lot of the current Corvette owners don't agree. The next thing we talk about is how much do you value a wide body setup? Because there are other options, a few nicer looking options on the aftermarket scene, which is right around $10,000 that you can upgrade to your car. So the new wide body setup for the Grand Sport really isn't moving a lot of current C8 owners, because most of them to this point, because there was supposedly no Grand Sport ever coming, have already made adjustments or modifications to their cars to look more aggressive that they actually currently like. So when we're having this conversation about how many new Corvette owners, or should I say current Corvette owners, are actually thinking about upgrading to the Grand Sport, just because of what they've already done to their cars cosmetically, there really isn't a lot of owners, or at least in the community I be in, that currently are talking about upgrading their car, especially when they own a 2LT or a 3LT right around the starting price of the new 1LT or 1LZ Grand Sport entry point. And they've added wheels, wings, splitters, side vents, all type of aero. They're just like, it's not worth the money. And another thing that we're also starting to realize too is that a lot of people feel like the Corvette lineup is bland. And when I say bland, yes, some have actually acknowledged and pointed out to me that the new C8 Grand Sport does have a slightly different front grille from what they can tell. It's not the same traditional grille that we're seeing in the C8 ZR1, the C8 Z06, or the past version of the C8 E-Ray, which it's kind of arguably the same, but they're saying there's still some slight difference in it. But at this point in time, the conversation led to the cars look so much alike, there is no reason, or you can't tell them apart. And now it's like you're trying to buy a car to blend in and fake it till you make it, which I feel like many of the modifications done to cars actually already live by that theory, or should I say concept. But again, like I said, the conversation piece was quite interesting. So for me, looking at, is the new Grand Sport really worth the money? I say let's look at it from more of an analytical perspective and really get into this topic. Well, the first thing I would say about is the C8 Grand Sport worth the money is I do agree with this type of update, or should I say upgrade to a car. I did not expect the engine upgrade to be less than $1,000. That's just being honest. Now, this new 535 horsepower, we don't have the numbers on it as of yet, and hopefully they don't come out when I release this video like they typically do, but we don't have the numbers on the engine yet. And I don't feel like the bump in power is going to be that significant. I've stated this before in other videos, so you can check out some of these. But in my opinion, the 535 horsepower and the extra torque that you're getting in the upgraded version of the C8 is probably going to dock that 2.9 seconds that's currently out there to somewhere right around, let's just say 2.7. I don't think it's going to surpass the C8 Z06 when it's being launched. I definitely don't believe it's going to pass the base E-Ray. So we may knock, I would believe, another 1/10 of a second to possibly 2/10 of a second off the 0 to 60 times. 1/10 of a second seems more likely. The next thing I want to sit there and say to you is the quarter mile run may be 2/10 of a second better, 3/10 of a second max. So again, for most people that aren't drag racing their car, or should I say, drag racing their car, or even taking it to the track, does that slight change in performance really justify you upgrading from a car that you're pretty much at this point, if you bought it within the last 2 years, you have so much more invested into paying the car off to now just upgrade to a new C8 or C8 Grand Sport. The next thing I would sit there and say to you, like I mentioned before, if you've already invested money into making the cosmetics of your car look more appealing and unique to yourself, does now taking the C8 Grand Sport platform, or should I say body, and becoming more of a misrepresented Z06, does that really fit your funny bone? Or is that something you're truly looking to do? At the same point in time, when you look at the pricing at $88,000 for a 1LZ, well, you can currently today get a used E-Ray for about the same price, and you would get more options on the car. If you go 1LZ to 1LZ Stingray, which a lot of people are afraid of the electric motor, I understand that, but you are getting more horsepower, 650 horsepower, which is arguably in a usable power range in the legal limits of owning the car. You're getting more power and performance with better braking and so forth by going with an E-Ray, which currently brand new, are currently discounted right around $90,000. And when you bring the E-Ray into the conversation, the wide body is there. So the argument about just upgrading to get to the wide body performance or the wide body look, that argument goes out the window. And I know many people feel like I've been hard on the E-Ray, but honestly, when you're looking at the current Corvette C8 Grand Sport market space, the E-Ray becomes the better purchase all day long. And although people don't agree, I actually find it hard to look past it. Now, if you want to step into the price range of buying a Z52 performance package with a base 1LT or LZ version of the Grand Sport, you're talking about the starting price of an E-Ray, right around $109,000, $110,000 is what you're looking at. And for that type of money, you can buy used Z06s on the market space, which is more horsepower than a base Grand Sport, for the same money with less than 2,500 miles. You can actually find them out there cheaper. So now this whole argument about the C8 Grand Sport being the best bang for your buck truthfully starts to go out the window. And another reason why I really believe this is becoming a known factor for many people is a lot of your favorite YouTubers, and I want you to let this sink in for a second. A lot of your favorite YouTubers are actually talking about building Grand Sport specs and what they would actually order. And some are being truthfully honest. And you have to think about this. When a person owns a C8 Z06 and now they talk about going to a Grand Sport, and when they build out a Grand Sport, they start deducting all the luxury options and features that they normally get in every other version of a car that they purchase, just to be one of the first owners on the street with the car. And they're talking about quick resale value and why they spec'd out their vehicle. I'm not going to say no names, but I've seen 3 to 4 videos now with people in the YouTube space who have pretty much owned E-Rays, Z06s, C8s, and they're trying to get their hands on ZR1s. Some are, some aren't. But every other version of the car they built out, they went out and got a 3LT version, some 2LT. They got nose lift on the car. They spec these cars out with a lot of equipment. And then today, they're talking about, yeah, I'm one of the first people to get my hands on a Grand Sport. And it's kind of funny because, well, I'll come back to that. But I'm going to be one of the first people to get my hands on a Grand Sport. And then they start specking out the Grand Sport and they start telling you, well, I'm going to leave off the nose lift. I'm going to stick with this basic color. There's no point in get these unique colors on this car that costs more money. I may upgrade to the 2LT seats. I'm not going to upgrade to the 2LT seats. I'm going to upgrade to the 2LT seats. I'm not going to pay for the carbon fiber accents. I'm not going to get the stealth package on the interior. I'm going to keep the car low. I'm not going to opt for the upgraded brake performance package. I'm not going to add the high wing of the Z50. Like, they start telling you why they don't want to put on the extras on the car. Or you may get, I'm only going to put on the Z52 package, which I believe is currently on restraints, and which is funny because the car hasn't even started yet. But that's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, what I'm getting to you about is they're building cheap cars. They're going to get their hands on the car, make some form of content, and then they plan on flipping the car, or should I say unloading it really quick, because that's what they've actually said. You know, I'll get my hands on the car, get some content out there for you guys, let you know how I truly feel about the car. But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to get buried in the car, stuck in the car, or lose too much money on the car, because, and I honestly say, you only make that type of comment when you honestly believe the car is not going to be worth the money they're asking for. Because if it's truly the best bang for the buck, it's the perfect entry point, it's the perfect valuation for what you should buy or invest your money into a current C8, you wouldn't worry or be concerned about struggling to get out of it, because there will be a demand for it. And because of what you're getting in this current Grand Sport, which you can currently get in a C8 2026 version across the lineup, meaning the interior, there is really nothing unique about the C8 Grand Sport except for a color or color options. So if you really let that sink in, the question now truthfully becomes, is paying for the color options and a wide body really worth the money? And a lot of people are starting to feel like the answer is no. And after the conversation with people that I see all the time and own Corvettes today, and they're telling me their thoughts process about it, I have a tendency to agree. For me, the C8 Grand Sport is a nice conversation piece if you've never owned a Corvette and you were waiting for something more. But if you currently own a Corvette, or you looking for the best bang for your money, it's hard to argue the investment you already have into your car financially, and what you can get your hands on a brand new C8 E-Ray, let alone a used E-Ray on the market space, or a used C8 Z06. So in the range of all the new Grand Sport options coming out, including the Grand Sport X, which I didn't talk much about, so let's touch on that real quick. A lot of people feel like the Grand Sport X, even with the bump in horsepower, is nothing more than an E-Ray. It's starting out the same performance range of the E-Ray. And the conversation piece is, if you're really going to buy a Grand Sport X, knowing that it's pretty much the same concept of the E-Ray, are you really that special that a name makes that big of a difference? Now, I tried to argue the fact you're getting more horsepower, longer, should I say, access power from the electric motors and the power band range of usage power. But even with that argument, the longer access of the power band range isn't full access. You start getting smaller ranges of performance. Once you cross that 130-mile range, you're already less than 70% of the performance power is gone. So let that sink in. But again, E-Ray, Grand Sport X, very similar cars. A lot more options on the ZR versions of the E-Ray out there for less money than what you get a new Grand Sport for. If you want to go more into that, let's talk about it. But ICNV Drivers Edition, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the ICNV Drivers Edition community. We are an interactive community, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms, on the comments below, I'll do my best to respond. And if the topic you can bring up is interesting enough, just like this one, I may even shoot a video on it. But don't forget, we're also a community of car enthusiasts that love to drive cars to make you turn your head, that aren't your everyday people movers. If you're one of those people, go ahead, lock in, subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss out on more interesting conversations that were going to come up, just like this one. We were all made in his image, given dominion over the world, which means we weren't just meant to be. So chase your dreams, build your visions, never ever give up, and embrace your own identity. It is okay to be unique. We were all given special gifts to become the best version of us that we can possibly be. So step into your calling, become the blessing to the world that you were meant to be. Just remember to stay humble, stay focused, and stay blessed. And I'll see you in these streets. Peace.